Hi, Chris.
Hi.
So, before we talk about USABP, maybe we could talk a little bit about you.
Sure. So I am a clinical psychologist and a body psychotherapist based out of Los Angeles, California. I'm the current president for the U.S. Association for Body Psychotherapy, and I also am the associate deputy editor with the rest of the USABP board of the International Body Psychotherapy Journal, um, who the deputy editor for whom is our vice president, Dr. Aileen LaPierre. Um, my background is that I've been a leader in healthcare for many, many years now. I started out in mostly teaching hospitals and academic medical centers. My interests in clinical psychology have always been within the realm of the body.
Hmm.
I began my education as a yoga therapist, training throughout Europe and various parts of the world. While I was still a leader at UCLA, I was the executive administrator for the UCLA Longevity Center and the Division of Geriatric Psychiatry when I began my yoga therapy studies. Um, but ultimately, I eat, live, and breathe research. That's really what I'm passionate about. And so I'm a clinical associate here in LA at the New Center for Psychoanalysis. And so I'm always playing with these ideas of what is embodied psychoanalytic work, what is sort of a embodied approach to psychological well-being. And that keeps me up late at night reading lots of journal articles. And that's pretty much my life.
Yeah, yeah. So something about that spirit of curiosity
Yeah,
and exploration,
yeah.
and that you are very much carrying forward in your role with USABP.
Yeah. USABP has been a homecoming for me. It really is my tribe because it's filled with people who have a similar curiosity for the body and the mind-body connection, and who are interested in sharing our own personal experiences of healing and well-being with our clients and with the world. And so it's the perfect place for me to volunteer and to help serve. And I'm grateful to be its president currently and to help continue its mission.
Hmm. Hmm. So do you want to just talk a little bit about USABP, what it is, and how you see it?
Sure. So USABP formed in the late 90s as kind of the brainchild of several somatic approaches who at the time were looking for a umbrella organization that would be able to provide a space, a place, and a vehicle for various somatic traditions to come together and to share in their scholarship and to support one another really in advancing their approaches. So naturally, that led to the formation of its first board of directors in 1998. And here we are 20 years later, still thriving. We've actually gone through a bit of a revival in the last couple of years with the arrival of this new board, who have, in some ways, sort of reignited the passion, if you will, for body psychotherapy research, in part because we've really spent our first year over this last year, both launching our biennial research conference that we just hosted at Pacifica Graduate Institute in Santa Barbara, California, and also with the arrival of Aileen LaPierre as the deputy editor now of the International Body Psychotherapy Journal, and with Dr. Karen Roller and myself helping Aileen and the Europeans with its publication. So we are member driven. We're a volunteer run organization. All of our activities really are generated by the community. And the main sort of policy making body is the board. And so we also coincidentally, though, help with the day-to-day operations. There isn't currently an executive committee. And so we're an army of three, but we are hoping in this new year to recruit new leadership who will help as committee chairs and task force chairs to help us with some of our endeavors that we're hoping to launch in 2019, including our scholarship fund, planning and executing our next research and member Congress and conference, as well as tackling issues that are important to our membership that came up as part of this last conference, issues like social justice, sex therapy education, and the like. So, we really see this organization really as a community more than it is an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, we use a lot of community-based models for how we govern and how we sort of execute the vision in a very kind of collaborative spirit that's far more bottom-up than it is top-down.
Yeah. So the invitation to join the association is not quite the same as joining a regular, ordinary association of psychotherapists. It
Right.
has similarities. We have, including the journal, but there is also that aspect of community involvement.
That's right. We see, community leadership as also a form, in some ways, of almost spiritual practice. When you step forward in an organization like this, the guiding beliefs that are based on the empirically supported premise that, emotions originate within the body and that the body and the mind and the soul are all connected, that these body-centered psychotherapists and practitioners will be looking to leadership for modeling. And so we have to approach it as an experiential practice, the art and science of volunteering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means that we employ these kinds of beliefs like present moment experiences and recognizing the felt sense as a navigational tool to help us reveal our own unconscious ambitions and desires and visions. So it really is a place where volunteering and leading in an organization like USABP can be truly reflexively enriching and can be a place where people actually grow and expand as clinicians and as human beings.
Yeah. And as I attended the last conference a few weeks ago, I could see that spirit very much in practice. These are not, empty words, but you actually put together a conference that very much embodied these principles and helped people live them.
Thank you. It really was a labor of love for the board. We were an army of three, but the theme, which was the science of connection and honoring our somatic intelligence, was one that we felt was really relevant in the here and now. That we saw, kind of where we are within the United States as the U.S. Association, and we felt that our field really needs to support methodological approaches that actually foster the repair of disconnection.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we were aiming for through the conference was to really start a conversation that would seek to highlight both the science and the practice of how embodied self-awareness really promotes this capacity for connection in both our clients and in ourselves. So we hoped to have highlighted these sort of relational approaches to body psychotherapy that would help sort of promote and restore our innate vitality. And I'm curious, like, what speakers did you hear? What were your takeaways from the conference, and what did you appreciate most about going?
Well, I think the thing that I appreciated more than anything else was the way in which the general atmosphere of the conference made everybody more open, more stimulated, more focused. There was a sense of relaxed alertness, in the exchanges, some enthusiasm for the speakers in a sense that they were felt supported by the audience, and a sense of engagement. I think that there were also moments of some discussions that were difficult and that were handled beautifully. That I think is a major test of when you're talking about the association as a community. A community that practices what it preaches is a community that is able to deal with difficult moments in a way that is respectful of everybody and helps everybody go forward with a sense of satisfaction from having been in that experience. So there's a lot that I found very very wonderful in the conference.
Thank you. That means a lot to us. It's good to hear that feedback. Yeah, I mean, this goes back to leadership as a form of spiritual practice, right? Where it's like
Mm-hmm.
daily, daily choice to have hard conversations, to foster an environment where there can be vigorous intellectual debate, but that also, in some ways, is inclusive of various, thoughts, and also that sort of, calls people in, as it beautifully articulated, to be able to be a part of solution finding to the contemporary social problems that we are facing in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, I think that the honorees absolutely in some way set the tone for that. Like the Pioneer Award recipient, who's a dear friend and colleague of mine, Steve Porges, he said, like, it felt like he was with his people.
Yep.
That's what he said. And here's Steve, who's, a researcher at the Kinsey Institute, who, has always been seen as this incredible mind in neuroscience and evolutionary biology, who feels at home with somatic people,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I think that in some ways reflects where we are as a community. And of course, Judith Weaver, who has always been a space holder. She was our Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, and how she was sort of the founder of the Santa Barbara Graduate Institute for Somatic Psychology, and has been a leader within the field for generations, had taught many of the therapists who were in attendance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we had kind of a, I saw one of the grad students, who I think was a Pacifica student, who said, like, this really is the Woodstock of body psychotherapy. and that was what we were hoping to have created.
Yeah.
Certainly Alan Shore, who's a mentor of mine, helped kick us off with an incredible sort of a talk about creativity in body psychotherapy, and how really body psychotherapy is the home base for creativity in psychotherapy. Because it lives and makes its living off of vitality in the here and now.
Yeah. And so maybe you can talk a little more about how this spirit goes on throughout the year when there is no conference, and how what the association does to foster that kind of communication.
Sure. Well, first of all, naturally, any sort of national group is going to depend upon its virtual community as kind of the container to support membership engagement. And we're no different in that sense. Our website has this kind of like members only side that sits on the back of our website, where we share an incredible resource library that has a lot of content from our previous conferences, from our webinar series of previous years. And so we create this kind of virtual community that also allows therapists to be a part of the Find a Therapist directory, where they're able to kind of advertise and promote their own services, and also then in turn provide a referral network for people who are looking to find practitioners who are body psychotherapy trained in other states or regions of the country. And it also creates this kind of discussion board area where folks can kind of talk about recruitment for research if a graduate student is doing research on body psychotherapy. I mean, it is a virtual community when it's not meeting in its biennial conferences. And through that vehicle, it provides ongoing education, webinars, training, and then, of course, publications, the biggest of which being the International Body Psychotherapy Journal that we co-published with the European Association. That I was alluding to. So, it's a place to learn, a place to network, a place to grow, and a place to sort of really offer and serve. And in that sense, that's where it lives in the in-betweens of every 2 years.
Yeah. So do you want to maybe give a little bit of a sense of the webinars that you're offering this year?
So 2019 is going to be a rockstar year for our webinar series. We will be featuring some of the names that people saw at the 2018 Biennial Conference. We will be bringing Dr. Porges in. We'll be bringing in Dr. Babette Rothschild, who gave a keynote address on our last day of the Congress this past year. But we'll also have a lot of features from our organizational and training membership. These are large organizations in some instances and medium size in others, but these are often independent body-centered training institutes who are giving sort of many introductory courses to their various methodologies through our webinar series. Right now, there's over a dozen or so that are already on the schedule. We will announce that in our New Year's newsletter. So if you haven't subscribed to be a part of our newsletter, you can do so at usabp.org. And we notify folks of new research and events through our listserv. But in the coming year, it's really going to continue the conversations that were started at the last conference. So there will be topics on things like sex therapy, social justice, embodied research, as well as new and exciting developments in the various sub-communities from somatic experiencing and organic intelligence and Rubenfeld folks and sensory awareness approaches, as well as bringing in some new thoughts from folks who might not necessarily be organizational members, but who sort of sit on the periphery of our community as kind of friends or colleagues. So it's a really, really exciting year in terms of our educational offerings. There will be more announced in the summer for the fall, but you'll see in the New Year's newsletter some really cool offerings that really make membership compelling if people aren't a member already. Now is definitely the time to join.
Yeah. So there's some reasons for personal satisfaction, personal enrichment, to become a member, but you want to also talk about maybe the idea that there is something also about joining in something that's larger than yourself, and a chance to maybe contribute to building something.
That's right. Well, it kind of goes back to the identity of like, what is a body psychotherapist? Because that's reflexive in a membership body, which is supposed to be representative of its members. So, the purpose of USABP really is to support the practice and further the evolution of this field called body psychotherapy. Now, body psychotherapists recognize the intrinsic unity of the human being in our somatic nature. Well, serving in the organization allows people to essentially ensure that that's championed both through intellectual debate, publications, and clinical practice. So we work in ways that foster the integration of sensation and thought and affect and movement that promote this integrated human functioning that we have seen in our own clinical work to resolve many of the psychotherapeutic concerns of our time. So we see, your chance to be a part of an organization like this, yes, gives you value transference in terms of your own education and training, but it also helps advance these methods and helps add your voice to conceptualizations of things like, how do we look at these issues like language and gesture and touch? When do we use it responsibly? What are the ethical and competent ways in our clinical praxis that we're able to incorporate these methods? So making an essential contribution to an organization like this makes an essential contribution to the psychotherapeutic process. And it allows you to be included and to help give your voice to any of the missing or alienated aspects of what you see in clinical care or in the practice of the art and science of body psychotherapy, as well as the aspects of just us as human beings who are a part of this community, because it's all rooted in sort of the bodily nature and the experience of using the body as our laboratory of experience.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. So is this a good place to end, or do...
Sure. I just invite people, please, to check out our website. Also go to the ibpj.org for the International Body Psychotherapy Journal. And if you haven't joined, please do, because 2019 will be the year to be a member of USABP.